Hey StarCraft community, it's DeadZerg here, and today I wanted to do another episode of Improved Analysis. It's going to be a really short one, and today I want to talk about tools that you guys can use to improve your replay analysis. So, this one's not specifically in StarCraft 2, it's actually an additional program called SCElight. So you can download it on Team Liquid, SCElight, and grab the latest version so you have support for all the new replays for patch 3.6. And it's a great tool to really get inside some metrics inside the game and see how you're actually executing things and judge yourself based on a couple metrics to say, where could my mechanics be better, those kind of things. So I'm going to just jump into the program and show you guys how it works. So it's pretty simple. It's going to open here. You're going to be able to see all the different replays. Replay folders is the first one. So I'm going to click here. This is my StarCraft 2 replays accounts, and I'll double click it and it's going to load all my replays. I've got like almost 3,000 right now. So here it'll show you all the different replays that you have. You can double click on one to bring up specific analysis on that replay. It's going to show you the length, the map, average league, average APM, average screens per minute, average spending quotient, and who the players are. So let's say I want to look at this replay. So this is a replay I played the other day. So we can open it up, and here it is. It's going to show us all of these different statistics on this replay. We can go in, we can see the build orders, when the timings were. So here, my probe is at 0 seconds, his is at 1 second, his drone. So right there already we can see that my execution at the beginning of the game was just a little bit better. We can go through, we can go here and click on users to see the different stats for each user. So this could be good. If you're comparing yourself to, say, your opponent, saying who is supply capped more, here you can see that I was supply capped about 8% of the time, he was supply capped 10% of the time. But I think the most useful tab in this, if you're looking at a single replay, is going to be the charts. So here we have a bunch of different charts. APM is the first one. I think it's probably the least useful metric in judging if you're playing well. You're going to see that, like, here at the beginning, he's spamming a lot of APM. Like, his APM goes up to 415 at some points. And then as the game progresses on, his APM sort of levels out here around 207. You can see actually at the beginning of the game, I personally, for the first minute, am not spamming almost at all. Then my spam goes up, and then mine levels off around 150 for this game. This game was like a weird Baneling bust game, so generally lower APM overall for both players. It can be useful comparing yourself to a pro, so taking one of your replays and then a pro's replay and saying, okay, he's got 250 APM, where is his APM? Like, how does it level off? Is it erratic like this, like going up and down all the time, kind of like mine, or is it more consistent throughout the game? And then asking yourself, why is mine like that? Why do I slow down at certain points and speed up at other points? You could go into the replay and target this time specifically and say, what was I doing at that time? You can also go down here into the actual actions and find, what were you doing at that time? What actions cause you to slow down here? See, as I can click through, I can see what is actually happening. So that can be useful. However, I personally don't think the APM tab is the best metric to look at if you're trying to improve your game. I think that the most powerful thing that SCElight offers is SPM, screens per minute. So, of course, there's all these other things like control groups. You can see the control groups, who is assigning what, when they were selecting it. You can see here, I'm using more control groups in general than he is. You can go in player stats, like this is not the most useful, or commands. What specific commands are people using? Like, when are they training units, when they're training workers, things like that. these can all be useful. Base control, chrono boosting, targeting different things, those kind of things. This was extremely useful in Heart of the Swarm when chrono boost was based on energy. You can go through pro replays and really quickly deduce where they're switching their chrono boosts and stuff. It's actually better to do it this way, just getting the information all at once. Like you can see, I target the gateway with the chrono boost there. That's my first change of chrono boost is onto the gateway, and it happens just after 2:15. So knowing those little kind of things can be really useful from a pro replay. You don't have to watch the replay and specifically watch for when the chrono boost is changed. Just open up this tab and figure out where all the chrono boosts they put down are. That's nice. It simplifies that learning process. But I think screens per minute is by far the most useful thing. Screens per minute is basically how often you change your screen. There's actually a little thing in SCElight that talks about how it calculates screens per minute. It's basically whenever you click the minimap, whenever you double click a control group, whenever you center your screen on a unit by clicking the portrait or using the center screen button. These are or whenever you use a camera location or a control group to jump to a location. These are the methods with which it calculates screens per minute. So every time you do one of those, it says you have a new screen. If you're scrolling around by hitting the edge of the screen all the time with your mouse, that's not changing your screen. That's having the same screen because your screen is just moving. It's not actually jumping to a new location. So screens per minute, I think, is perhaps the most useful metric in determining if you have good global awareness in the game. If you have a very low screens per minute, say you play with 10 screens per minute, that's pretty low. That's about 6 seconds on each screen before you change it to look at something else. So if you play with the faster screens per minute, you're actually going to be seeing more things more often. So it's more like if you spend 1 second looking at each base and you alternate back and forth between the bases very quickly, it's going to look like you're spamming your cameras. But you're also gaining information as to what's happening at each of those bases at a very fast rate, rather than just staring at one base for a very long time. So I like to use the tool SCElight to look and see at my screens per minute. How are they actually functioning in game? So I know that here my screens per minute spike because I set up my camera locations, and then they drop off, and then I spam through my camera locations to check and see if they're all correct, and then they drop off as the game starts, because the first minute of the game I basically stare at my main base and don't look at other things. But then as that goes on, I want to make sure that I'm maintaining good screens per minute, which for me is around 30. If I'm ever dropping below 30, it's bad. So like, why here have I bottomed out at 0? I know why. It's because he's making a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings and stuff like that, and it's stressful. So I'm just kind of staring at my wall. But in other games, you want to look and see and make sure, don't bottom out with the screens per minute. Try and keep yourself moving, always looking at new things. Let me see if I can find a replay quickly that may demonstrate this. So if we look at a player like Wellmu and Hydra, so 2 pro players, we can see at the beginning of the game, Wellmu also has very inflated screens per minute, most likely spamming through them. But then as the games go on, his screens per minute still does stay exceptionally high. It only ever bottoms out about once here, and then at the very end of the game where he's probably either won or completely lost, right? And we see with Hydra as well, not much during the beginning of the game, but then it spikes up, but ends up plateauing off, and the mark that it's actually sort of averaging out at is between 26 and 53. Hydra averages 62 screens per minute, and Wellmu averages 57. It's pretty good for a 6-minute game, but really what that means, 62 screens per minute means that every second he's looking at something different. Wellmu, every second he's looking at something different. So what this means in terms of mechanics, you can inflate your APM and you can have 400 APM every single game and be in Gold League. That's totally fine, because you can just spam through useless things. But with screens per minute, it's always going to be useful because you're always going to be looking at something different, gaining a little bit more global awareness. And if you are consistently playing throughout the entire game with a high screens per minute, what ends up happening is every action that you make on those screens has to be concise, because you don't have time to make little mouse click errors, because you have to go to the next screen in a second, right? You don't have time to say make a misclick and then correct that click. That will actually slow down your screens per minute. So I really like looking at this metric to see, are my mechanics improving? Am I pushing myself to the next level? And trying to improve my overall global awareness. So working on this in combination with things like improving your control groups, improving using location keys, that's really going to help push your game to the next level and improve your overall global awareness. So if you have more questions about why people spam camera locations and the benefits of that, I did another video on that. It's called Questions Answered. So go check it out. And other than that, I hope SCElight is a helpful tool for you. And I hope that screens per minute is a different way to sort of think about speed in the game and improving your overall global awareness. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.